Hi, third grade writers. Welcome back. Today is really our last big lesson of this unit. Tomorrow you're going to start finalizing and publishing your realistic fiction story. And then when we finish that, we're going to work on a little bit of a memory time capsule for third grade. So let's do this and get finished up, all right? Today we're going to talk about revising and editing. And I told you yesterday, I've been working on my story. You can see how I'm writing and skipping lines, and you can see where I'm making lots of changes. So let's talk about that. That's not anything new. We've talked about that all year, how to revise and edit. So let's just go over briefly what the expectations are. Okay, when you revise, that's when you use that acronym STAR, the letters STAR. And we'll get more in detail about that in just a second. But remember that when you revise, that only the writer is really the person who can do that revising. That's adding things and changing things, making your writing sound better. Does it make sense, right? Adding things to it, taking things away. And only the writer can really do that because they're the ones that have the ideas in their head, right? They know the story, they know the events of the story and what's happening. So they're the ones that can add to it and make it better. How do you do that? You use those letters, like I said, STAR, and that's an acronym. So each letter stands for something else. So if you look about halfway down our slide, you're going to notice the STAR word right here, right? But the S stands for substitute. So that means you're going to change words or phrases that are maybe weak, and you want to add something that's stronger. You're also, the T, going to take out things that you repeat, or maybe information that's there that's really unimportant. It doesn't need to be there. It's just kind of like filler. And you think, oh, that's just kind of, me going on and on. It doesn't really need to be there. So take it out, right? A stands for adding details. You can add figurative language. We've learned about metaphors and similes this year, right? You can add new information, right? Continue the story, add more to it. You can add things like adjectives to describe things. Adjectives describe nouns. Remember, adverbs describe verbs. So if we're talking about somebody walking, explain how are they walking? Are they walking quickly or slowly, right? Add an adverb or an adjective to describe a noun. You can also use the letter R, and that stands for rearrange. So maybe you need to move some words around, or maybe some sentences need to go in a different order. Possibly a paragraph needs to go in a different order, right? That might be more important if you are not showing, right, the order of the events that are happening. The sequence is off. Maybe you need to show something before one of your paragraphs. So you need to kind of mix those paragraphs up when we're talking about doing those explanatory essays that we worked on, right? Sometimes the order doesn't matter, okay? So in this particular case, because it's a realistic fiction story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, we want to make sure that the order of events makes sense. So when you're reading that, ask yourself, is this how something would really happen in real life? Okay. So when we're revising, we're using that STAR acronym. I put some pictures of some stars down here to remind you. Substitute, right? Take things out. Add details, rearrange things if you need to. The other part of revising, and you can tell that I've been doing that on mine, right? The other part that goes along with revising is called editing, and we use the acronym CUPS for that to remember what to do. And you might think, okay, what does it even mean to edit and who can do that? Editing can really be done by anybody. It can be done by the writer and should be done by the writer. You should be the first one to go back over your story and reread it, right? And see, okay, what do I need to fix? You should be the first one to do that. Then you can ask a partner or a parent or a sibling or a friend to go over it and edit it as well. Okay, when you edit, you make your writing look better by fixing those mistakes. So let's use that acronym CUPS to spell out, right, the words that we need to do. The C stands for capitals, right? You should always start your sentence with a capital letter. Okay, a sentence is never started with a lowercase letter. You might also have names or places or titles of things. You could have months or days of the week, right? Things that need a capital letter. So go back and check. I like to do just one thing at a time. I just read and I check just for capitals, and I can catch them a little bit better that way. Then the U stands for usage. So as you read it, does it make sense? Is your grammar correct? You've done a lot of work with grammar this year, with the subject and the predicate and the nouns and the verbs, right? And they have to match. So rereading it, does it sound like language or conversation, right? P stands for punctuation. You should have, right, every sentence ending with some kind of punctuation, whether it's a period or a question mark. You might even have an exclamation point. And do you have commas in there where possibly you need to pause or you're listing things? Make sure that you've got commas where they belong. Also, your spelling, right? You're going to be checking your spelling, and you can have a grown-up help you with that. You just do your best. What I like to do is when I write a word, if I'm not quite sure, I'll circle it and put like an SP with a question mark so that I can go back and check it instead of always looking at, stopping what I'm doing and looking up a word, or stopping what I'm doing and going and asking my teacher or my colleague, another teacher, hey, does this look right to you? I finish my writing and then I go back at the end and fix all of that. So editing and revising, right, can be, the editing part can be a real stopper if you continue to stop and do it all the time, right? Just make some notes for yourself, like circling words, right? Those red words that you've been learning ever since kindergarten, those are no excuse words. And you know how to spell a lot of words. So double check yourself and make sure that your red words are spelled correctly, all right? So again, when you are editing, right, you should do that first, and then you can have somebody else put their eyeballs on your story and say, hey, I've already looked this over. Would you help me check for capitals and punctuation and spelling and the usage? Does it sound right to you? Maybe they can help you, right, bridge some of those gaps if you are missing some information. So revising using star, editing using cups. Last thing I want to mention to you is, what does it look like to revise and edit? Here's a picture, right? And it says when writers revise and edit their draft, which is also known as their sloppy copy, right? You can see the evidence of their hard work on the paper. You can see, right, what they're doing. So maybe words and phrases are added, or maybe they're crossed off. Maybe you change your mind and you think, oh, I don't like that word. I'm going to put a different word there instead. Corrections might be made to spelling and to punctuation. And anyone who edits the writing can look at that, just like somebody could pick up mine and they could say, oh my goodness, I can see all her thinking there. She really went back and she took the first thing that she wrote down and she went back and she made it better, changing words. Maybe like this, I changed the word running to rushing. And then I was talking about the lunch table. Think about, you can visualize the lunch table. And I just said that, lunch table. And I decided, oh, I'm going to add some adjectives there. I'm going to add long, comma, skinny lunch table, because that's the type of lunch table that's in a cafeteria, right? It would be different if I was talking about a restaurant, right? I added some different sentences. I went ahead and tried to double check some of my spelling. So make sure that as you are going back over your sloppy copy, that you're making those changes. You'll notice lines are skipped. We've learned to skip lines because then you have extra space in there to add things, right? You can add those little upside down V's. We call those carets to add words and cross things off. You don't have to erase things. That takes too much time, right? You're just going back and rereading and changing as you go, okay? If you would like to use colored pens or pencils or even sometimes markers, if they're skinny markers, right, you can see your thinking and you can see your changes right away. But anybody who would pick up your draft should be able to see how you revise and you edit your realistic fiction story. All right, so tomorrow we're going to talk about, how do I get this going? What do I do with all of this great writing? You're going to be typing it into a Google Doc, all right? And you're going to remember, have 5 paragraphs, because that's what our power organizer shows us, right? Our top triangle, our 3 rectangles, and our bottom triangle. So you're going to need to demonstrate, show understanding of how we can see 5 separate paragraphs, right? Indenting, using the keyboard on your Chromebook, doing it in Google Docs. We're not going to be doing it on the iPad. So getting used to that Chromebook so that you can use that as a 4th grader next year. All right, so stay tuned. There'll be some more information coming your way tomorrow.